Howdy all and welcome. This is Mike from It's Fine Gaming. We're in Homebrew, and today I'd like to take a look at the rotational gyroscope. Let's go ahead and get started with my testing apparatus that I've already built. Alright, now if you're just starting with rotational gyroscopes, it can be pretty confusing at the beginning, so I put this together in hopes to help folks figure out how to use them best. Alright, so let's look at the first one we have here. First thing to understand is the rotational gyroscope is going to create rotation around this pin here. It's going to go clockwise or counterclockwise depending on how you have it mapped. And I have it hooked up to a hinge which will allow it to rotate, and then I just have this fin here to help keep it steady so it's not constantly wobbling or rotating without my input. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the first one here. If this is the axis of rotation, it's going to try to spin in this direction, which is not conducive to this hinge. So let's go ahead and power it up. Have to get control of my seat. Alright, we have control. Okay. Each one of these is hooked up to the battery, so it just has one battery powering each one. Alright, and we can see the center moving, which means it's active, but nothing's happening because this frame is attached to the side and it doesn't have the freedom to rotate along this axis. So if you're having trouble trying to get your rotational gyroscopes to work, this may be the issue, is the orientation. Let's go ahead and turn this one off. Take a look at our second here. Now I've put it in another orientation. Let's turn this one on. Okay, and we have the same issue. If we look at the axis, again, it's not conducive to this hinge. So this is not a properly oriented either. So let's go turn this off. Go to our third one. Now this one does function, as we can see, because this hinge or this pin right here is the axis of rotation, which coincides with the hinge. So I can now turn it continuously and I can stop it, or I can just let it fall to rest, and that's all based on the center of gravity. Alright, turn that one off. Okay, we're on to number 4. Now this one I don't have connected to the hinge like it was on the number 3 here. I actually have a curve 5 or a curve 4, and it's connected to the bottom side. Now this one's going to demonstrate, well, I just turned it off. This one's going to demonstrate that this is still viable. As you can see, the axis is still coinciding with the hinge, and this still is functional. So it's your choice depending on the room you want to do or aesthetics, but this is completely viable. Alright, turn that one off. On to number 5. Alright, now this one, I have the same orientation of that curve 5 pipe, but I've located the rotational gyroscope on the bottom side. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. As we can see, it still is operational. We do have a greater effect from gravity because of the center of gravity is so far off this hinge. See kind of how it slowly goes up but quickly comes down. But this is, again, viable. Depending on space or location or exactly what you're trying to do with the application, this may be perfectly what you need. And this is only working because this axis is in the same orientation as the hinge. Now if I had this spun 90 degrees in any other direction, it would not function in the same way. It's only because this axis and these axes here are parallel to each other. Oh, okay. On to number 6. This one I have set up with just a straight right off the hinge, but I'm demonstrating how I'm using fins to dampen the motion. And here we are spinning up, and you can see how it comes to rest. And the center of gravity is right in line with not only the axis of the rotational gyroscope, but the axis of the hinge. So now you'll notice how it doesn't slump down to one side. Alright, on to number 7. This one I'm demonstrating a similar dampening force, but instead of using the fins, I'm going to be using a gyroscope. We can see it'll spin on its own and it will come to rest. Now this is a little bit, comes to rest a little bit slower. You can still see there's some motion. And that can be controlled by the number of batteries that are hooked up to the dampening gyroscope. Or you could put fins on, but again, it's two different methods of trying to dampen or slow the gyroscope down. Failing that, it would just continue to spin with its momentum and not really slow down. Alright, now these only are going to work in this fashion if they are hooked up with a hinge. Now if you wanted to hook them to the main frame as if you didn't have a turret or you didn't have another moving part on the vehicle itself and you wanted the whole vehicle to rotate, you would just hook it to the frame and you'd have something similar to this right here. And again, the center of gravity, which does not include these centers of gravity, is going to be somewhere around here, and you can see how it tries to pivot around. Alright, well that about wraps it up. This was a demonstration on rotational gyroscopes. I hope it helped some new people out trying to figure out how to use these components. And this has been Mike from It's Fine Gaming. Thanks for watching and hope to see you again.